Guys of a Certain Age is brought to you by no one. Absolutely no one. Except these dudes walking down memory lane. Now let's head to the studio to see what they misremember next.
On this episode.
Brats?
Brats.
Okay.
Geek things.
Gotcha.
Can I go now?
I think you should think. I thought we were talking about brats.
It's the show that has its own Prime Day, its own Pie Day, its own Keg Day. It's guys of a certain age. Robbie Koblitz in studio alongside
Art Shirley.
And Jay Reed.
Prime to pie, you get that.
I
Prime
get it
numbers
now.
to
I didn't get it before.
Then pie to
Nice.
cake.
I did get it till you explained it to me.
Did you get that, Jay?
I didn't.
You didn't.
Prime numbers, pie.
When you said pie, I went straight to food.
And I wondered if we had some kind of discount that we could apply at Amazon.
Did you guys order anything at Prime Day?
I did.
We did.
I did not order.
I ordered a $9 iPad stand, to be able to prop an iPad up and phone.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
We got a curling iron.
That's obviously not for you.
Not for me.
Now, Becky ordered an new Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And I think she was on Series 3. And also some Apple Pro AirPods.
Okay.
So because I kept telling her how much I loved mine.
Yeah.
She was. So she had to get them. They were pretty good deals. I mean, they were good deals.
I made a point not to buy anything during Pie Days. So, I feel good about myself, or Prime Days, or whatever the days are.
Yeah.
So
we were looking for a new watch.
in all the wrong places.
Apparently, because they were much higher than when we found them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And you got a curling iron, Jay.
Got a curling iron and some other. Basically, my wife shopped.
Yeah,
we didn't think it was for you.
Yeah, it wasn't. I won't tell the other things she bought there, but it was all women's stuff.
Oh, probably a good thing. So, all right. Well, let's jump into some Geeks of the Week. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I have some sad news, and I thought this actually had occurred a little bit more recently than it had, and I realize now it has not. But did I tell you I've been watching Land of the Lost again?
Yeah.
Okay, so watching Land of the Lost, and then I hear that the father, Spencer Milligan, who is Marshall, there was Marshall, Will, and what was her name? Marshall, Will, Holly.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Do you ever watch Land of the Lost?
I vaguely remember it, but...
Well, it's every bit as cheesy and poor effects as you remember, but the stories are actually, pretty good. I mean, they were written by some DC, some science fiction writers. I think DC Fontana's involved in it, who was in Star Trek. So the stories, obviously they're way simplified, but the concepts were pretty good. So it would be kind of neat for me to see a remake of this series done in a more serious fashion than the Will Ferrell movie was. But unfortunately, I found out that Spencer Milligan passed away in April. I thought, well, gosh, here I am watching the guy, and he's passed away. But the two kids, Will and Holly, are making the rounds at all the different Comic-Con things, and they have the opening scene is just very bad special effects things, all green screen kind of stuff, and they're on this stream that's obviously just something coming out of a hose. I mean, there's no type of...
I kind of remember that.
And then the styrofoam rocks move, and then they go down this waterfall and into the Land of the Lost. Well, at the Comic-Cons, they have this rubber raft set up, and you get to pose with Will and Holly. So.
I remember the Beast.
Mm-hmm. Chaka.
Yeah, which
because what
remind me of
started,
the Gorn.
The Sleestack is that
Sleestack.
beast. Yeah.
Oh, Sleestack.
Chaka is the one that looks a little bit like a Wookiee.
Yeah.
And he was the one that I thought, when you see that opening scene of The Acolyte, which I've not finished, I've got to watch the last episode. Oof. But when you see the opening scene or the first scene with I can't remember his name, Kelnaka, the Wookiee from Acolyte.
Okay, yeah. All right. So yes.
Yeah, not Land of the Lost.
To say,
but anyway,
I'm
it
lost
looks like
in
he's
the land
the same.
of the Lost.
He's that same blonder color that Chaka is.
Yeah.
And he's walking through. I said, "This looks like Chaka grown up." And so now I want to do a series of Land of the Lost, 15 years later, that has Holly and Chaka and their hybrid love child.
Yeah.
Cool. I saw a scene the other day where the Sleestack was kind of saying goodbye to the dad, and it was like a nice moment. It's been nice to know you. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I think there were some slee stacks that ended up being allies or whatever, but
Slee stacks.
Yeah.
Wow. I was 4 years old when Land of the Lost dropped.
And I didn't watch it in its original run. There was Valley of the Dinosaurs, which was a cartoon that was a little bit
I vaguely remember that.
I think we watched Land of the Lost.
Yeah, I had friends that watched Land of the Lost, and they said, "Oh, you need to switch over to that." So,
Cool.
anyway, but it's really, really bad cheesy.
Well, most sci-fi from that point is.
Yeah.
I
I think we talked about this is the one that Doctor Who goes, step up your game.
Hold my Tardis. Well, that's a great segue to my Geek of the Week.
Okay.
If your geek was done.
It is, yes.
So apparently the House of Mouse is not really pleased with their investment in Doctor Who.
Oh.
So this was an article that dropped a couple days ago at Deadline.com. Actually, dropped yesterday. Doctor Who's regeneration has the Disney gamble paid off, and so Disney dropped a good amount to be a co-producer, 2-year deal.
Yeah,
they brought back Russell T Davies. A new Doctor, new companion, new science fiction, new special effects, whatever. Anyway, and the ratings have been abysmal.
Yeah.
So the ratings have been lower than Jodie Whittaker's show. The series has been lower than the 4 David Tennant specials. And I think it's a combination. Some of the writing's just been bad. The Space Babies episode was just stupid.
Yeah.
Is it on BBC as well, or just Disney Plus now?
So it's BBC inside the United Kingdom, and then everywhere else is Disney Plus.
Okay.
So the same audience as far as BBC watchers were able to watch it.
Yeah.
And it didn't help.
No, it didn't. And I think sometimes they forget what made Doctor Who special. Mm-hmm. And I mean, how many times have we seen this when you need to know your audience? They're trying to broaden their audience,
but they don't. They lose their core audience.
They lose their core audience, and when you lose your core audience, you kind of lose the people who have the buy-in.
The question might be: I haven't watched The Acolyte, but I just from what I've heard about it, I know you have different opinions, maybe, but is that same thing happening with Star Wars by trying to broaden the audience?
I think to a large degree it is. Now I will say I think both of us have enjoyed Acolyte.
Oh, Acolyte's great,
and it's catching a lot of flack for wokeness and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's working. I mean, to me it's okay. But I do think in larger issue, yes, Star Wars not being true to its, and I think that started with the sequel trilogy. Not necessarily wokeness, but just kind of not being really true to the audience, that they had. They lost a lot of core
I need to
folks.
binge that so we can talk
so many
about
times
it.
you get in Hollywood and you get disconnected from your fan base or any siloed media production, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of forget you want to be original, you want to be different than what's come before. And then sometimes I think you just kind of divorce yourself from what made the show great. To me, Doctor Who is about a eccentric, standoffish, ultra smart alien who usually is a little bit elder, who can be a guiding force for good. And they've just kind of turned him into, he's my best friend.
Yeah.
And I just think that's kind of gotten away from what has made it popular over 60 years. And they've added the romance element in. I don't care whether it's opposite sex or same sex, but the Doctor historically has had no romantic intentions towards his companions, and that's changed over the last 10 years or so. And I think it's affected the core audience as well. So I don't know. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's in the media production space, and the budgets have dried up for TV shows. Yeah. And we're now in a contraction of media, and it's going to be interesting what survives through this. Yeah. The platforms, Netflix, Prime, whoever, have thrown millions upon millions of dollars at any idea trying to get one to stick. Yeah. And I find it just kind of ironic that probably the best thing going on Hulu is a relatively cheap budget show called The Bear with no special effects whatsoever. So, Netflix threw a lot of money at Three Body Problem, kind of lost what made it unique, and it's been kind of blah. So, but anyway, I think you've seen a lot of that with Star Wars too.
Yeah.
So
and just like even the Lord of the Rings stuff, they'll take a property they think, oh, this is something that people love, and they'll pour a lot of money into it. But there's something with the first season of Rings of Power, which I enjoyed, but it was kind of slow, kind of a muddled mess at times, and it was like they didn't really they thought that the viewers, the fans would be there to support the thing, and the viewership just showed that they didn't come, or they didn't come much past the first couple of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things about Rings of Power is the Silmarillion and all the rest of the supporting materials were written almost like textbooks.
Yeah.
It was Tolkien's backstory.
Mm-hmm. It didn't really have a story.
It did not.
Yeah,
it was a history
reference book,
and it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. You cared about the characters.
Yeah.
I think the House of the Dragon has done a great job of taking that Silmarillion type of information that George R.R. Martin wrote in his Fire and Blood, whatever book, which is basically a history of Westeros, and they have made characters you care about. Mm-hmm. And, you just don't see that in the Rings of Power.
Yeah, so, I don't know anything about the history and all that, but I have gotten really into House of the Dragon, Team Rhaenyra, Team Green, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Did you like Game of Thrones?
I never finished it. I watched about half of the first season.
Because I'm hearing from folks that may or may not have cared as much for Game of Thrones that really seem to be liking the House of the Dragon. Is that what it is? House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon, yeah.
I can't really make a comparison. I didn't watch it. I read the book, the first one, but I haven't read the
that's interesting.
TV. Yeah, it's good. It reminds me of kind of Better Call Saul compared to Breaking Bad.
Yeah, which a lot of people thought was superior to Breaking Bad. It's just I watched a season or two of Better Call Saul and really liked it, but it never really hooked me like Breaking Bad did.
Yeah, because you kind of knew what was going to happen at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right, Jay has a geek. We should let Jay talk for a while.
And we're out of
but
time.
that was so fascinating. It really was.
Tell us all about the curling iron.
The curling. I don't know anything about it.
It's a Curl 4000.
It's a backup curling iron. We have a curling iron that has air that flows through it.
You need to say Melissa has a curling iron.
Well,
Jay, chic of the week.
I don't have any hair to curl on my chinny chin or whatever in my head. Anyway,
let's move on.
My geek has to do with Max going all in on DC villains coming up. You've probably seen the trailer a week or two ago from when we were talking. The Penguin trailer came out, which I think looks really good.
It does.
I'm fascinated because my POV for the Penguin is it Burgess Meredith?
Yeah.
And
from the 60s.
Danny DeVito. I mean, with literal penguins around.
Yeah.
And the squawking and all that stuff and the umbrella. And so it's kind of fascinating to see this other picture. This seems to be kind of almost like a Godfather story, or at least a mob story. So, and I've heard that Robert Pattinson may make an appearance as Batman in the series, so we'll see about that. But
when does that come out?
September.
Okay.
So that's the big thing coming at September. But I was looking through that today to watch that trailer again. Another thing launched today. It's a adult animation, so
Sorry, Mrs.
Disclaimer:
Reed.
This is the Mrs. Reed edit of the title is Kite Man Heck Yeah.
Yeah, Kite Man. Yeah.
So I never heard of it. Apparently, he's
and that's
a real
from
thing.
the same folks that have brought us Harley Quinn stuff, right?
It's supposed to be a spinoff of the Harley
gotcha.
Quinn animation. So that dropped today. And it's got some wordy dirds in it, so this is not for the kids or Mrs. Reed, but it looks kind of funny.
Yeah,
I think I'll give it a try.
Well, I mean, Kite Man was just this
such
one
a ridiculous hero.
just one-off villain
Yeah.
that he would just come in. Kite Man beep, yeah, and just come through the frame. And the fact that they have made a series out of him, that's great. I mean, he and his girlfriend Glider Girl own a bar. That's the premise of it. So it's kind of takes place through the bar, and like I think Bane comes in the bar one time, and in the trailer that I watched. I'm gonna have to watch this.
And Harley Quinn does
Is that out
promotion.
Yet?
It's dropped today.
Okay.
Yeah, we're first 2 episodes out today, and Harley Quinn did kind of a trailer where she basically says, "I want to do something from one of my characters." But instead, we got Kite Man. That kind of a thing. So, anyway, Batman, DC villains coming to a Max near you.
I'm going to have to watch Kite Man. So, are you watching My Adventures with Superman?
I've watched the first couple episodes and liked it, and then just kind of forgot about it. I need to go back and catch up with it, but I did like it. Yeah.
So apparently they redid For the Man Who Has Everything storyline for the last episode, which I think is the 4th time this has been done in television, including Supergirl. It was done in Supergirl as well. So I'm kind of curious how they do that. But man, I'm gonna have to watch Kite Man. Heck yeah. But anyway,
that's it.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about brats and sauerkrauts and brats and I don't know. I didn't have anything to do with food, but it does have a lot to do with Andrew McCarthy and Demi Moore. Yeah. Up next. And we're back. We're going to talk Brats, not brats, but Brats.
Brats.
The documentary that came out on Hulu a little bit earlier this year. And
Andrew McCarthy did it.
Right.
One of the proponents one of the key members of the Brat Pack, and was never happy with that title, apparently.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
None of them were, and I was shocked at that.
Well, I will say Rob Lowe and Demi Moore had probably the healthiest attitude about the whole thing. And I think because both of them have been through possibly bigger scandals or bigger problems in their lives. And it was like, this was not, Rob Lowe was kind of like, hey, this is just what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rob Lowe and Demi Moore have continued to work and been in some big stuff, whereas Andrew McCarthy
has not as much.
Yeah. I mean, he did a lot of stuff, and I think he's doing different things now, but he certainly didn't become the box office persona that
he was for several years. He was but he was always playing the same character.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back at his filmography, it's like he plays the rich kid who falls for the girl from the wrong side of the tracks or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think he kind of got pigeonholed in a lot of ways to that. But.
And Rob Lowe, on the other hand, he really did change what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean he did West Wing.
Yeah, Sam Seaborn, the character of Sam Seaborn. He did
Parks and Rec, and showed his comedy style.
Oh,
he was in Wayne's World and Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so he showed that he could play, even though he very much stayed within his pretty boy persona, that kind of stuff. But he was able to make fun of that and really in Parks and Rec, he's one of the funniest things.
I was surprised that I enjoyed him in Parks and
Rec.
Rec.
He was very good in that.
Oh, I think he's great. Texas 911.
Texas 911.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what he's in now, right?
Yeah.
As a fireman or something.
But he was, the thing about West Wing was he and Martin Sheen were two of the first film actors,
big film actors
to transition to episodic weekly television.
Right. Everybody was wanting to go the other way.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if they were in points in their career where that was necessary, but it seemed more like that there was no shame in it. It wasn't like this is all we could get kind of thing.
No, it was an Aaron Sorkin piece. And of course I'm a huge West Wing fan, and the story I've read and heard is that the pilot script of The West Wing is arguably one of the greatest pilot scripts of all time. And you had John Spencer attached to it as well. It's Aaron Sorkin who wrote it. What's his face, who was executive producer of ER. So there were a lot of guns behind it. But, he was able to pull, and Sorkin had worked with Martin Sheen in The American President.
Yeah.
And then Martin Sheen becomes he was the chief of staff character that, Michael Douglas. Anyway, neither here nor there nor yonder. Reeling it back to the Brat Pack, Demi Moore and Rob Lowe were kind of the two that had sustained success beyond the 80s.
You had Ali Sheedy, who was in a couple of things, and then she kind of, I mean, you would see her show up on as guest stars on television occasionally.
Yeah, she was, I always had the biggest crush on her.
Yeah.
She filmed that movie at Ole Miss, and I just like followed her around campus.
And
I think they call it stalking now. I'm not sure.
You had Molly Ringwald, who declined to be part of the show.
There are things you should just not say on this podcast, Jay.
It was very polite.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, well,
but Molly Ringwald was not on the show. Judd Nelson was not on this documentary.
Yeah, I was bummed that they couldn't find him, but that also kind of lent an air of mystery to him.
Yeah. And then he called, the last shot is Judd.
I thought the documentary was very well done.
Oh yeah,
and one of the most interesting two interesting scenes for me was the Emilio Estevez encounter. I mean, Emilio,
awkward.
That was they just stood there at the counter in his kitchen, both on either side of it, never sat down. Emilio was obviously very tense because apparently Emilio had asked they not cast Andrew McCarthy in some movie that was coming up because he was trying to disassociate himself, Emilio was, from the Brat Pack label. But Emilio's the one that
he's the one that
did the interview.
Sort of started it.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't start it, but it was his interview, and the interview with that writer.
That's going to say that was the other big scene to me that he actually went and talked to the writer. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, as he's going up in the elevator, he's like, if you had told me 30 years ago, I'd be going to see. I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah. And I liked what the writer says. Like, I wasn't really trying to.
Yeah, he's got a job to do, man. He's trying to. Yeah. So,
well, let's define the Brat Pack, and this I just. Yeah, I just finished. Yeah. I just finished the doc last night, and they spent 5 minutes on, Brat Pack and Brat Pack-Adjacents.
I like that. I like that term. So Leah Thompson came up with that.
Yeah.
So to me, the Brat Pack is, and I probably missed somebody, but I think of Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
The St. Elmo's cast primarily. Andrew McCarthy, Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez, and then Anthony Michael Hall.
Judd Nelson.
Judd Nelson, yes. Yeah. And Anthony Michael Hall. And so it's kind of St. Elmo's Fire Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anthony Michael Hall is probably in there, but I almost consider him adjacent now. Yeah. He was kind of the young kid. I don't know that I really consider him the Brat Pack, but I could see where people would lump him in.
He was certainly in that mix.
He was in the John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
But Andie MacDowell was also in St. Elmo's Fire, and we don't consider her Brat Pack.
Yeah, she was a little older,
not
though.
a main character, though. I mean, she was a big character, but not like the others.
Yeah. And then, let's see.
John Cryer?
John Cryer is not in the Brat Pack.
He's adjacent.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Leah Thompson would be adjacent as well.
Yeah.
And they talked about like Tom Cruise. I mean, he was
Tom Cruise. I
definitely don't think of him as the Brat Pack.
No,
but he was in that.
Timothy Hutton?
Timothy Hutton, not in the Brat Pack. He was kind of like. He seemed to be the predecessor of the Brat Pack, like the Obi-Wan.
That was a fun interview, though.
That was a good interview, and I always liked him a lot. I always thought Timothy Hutton was a fantastic actor. And Charlie Sheen is one, even though he was in some of those movies, he was never one that was a Brat Pack person.
Robert Downey Jr. was in some. Robert Downey Jr. was in.
Robert Downey Jr. was a lot of them.
Yeah,
but I don't consider him either. Matthew Broderick, who played Ferris Bueller, was in a John Hughes movie, but being in a John Hughes movie does not a Brat Pack make.
Yeah. It's at St. Elmo's Fire, and I think it's the, when St. Elmo's Fire came out, that's kind of what we all aspired at our age. We wanted to live in Georgetown, have the flats, have those adventures, be able to go hang out at a bar at night. That's to me, that's what I thought. Oh, that's what college.
That's what. Yeah,
I came out of that movie like choked up because of the friendship.
My life has just been horrible.
Because I have a popcorn allergy.
I aspirated and almost fainted. No, but I just watching the friendship there, and I think one of the writers that he interviewed, I forget what the name of the book was, she talked about that, about how people saw that movie and saw this is a friendship kind of a thing that I would like to have, and I was that person.
Yeah,
it was kind of like friends. I don't mean that, but it was just something special about.
Well, and I can't remember if it came out before or after. I think it was after, but I could be wrong. But it was kind of a Big Chill type movie. For
our age.
Yeah, for that younger generation.
And it was the spiritual predecessor to Friends.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I think very much so.
And I mean, you've got 7 friends in St. Elmo's Fire. But I mean, basically, you took the lighter side of St. Elmo's Fire, put them in New York, and that's Friends.
Yeah.
You don't have the
But you had the same kind
instead
of
of-
diversity of occupations and the different personalities.
Yeah, to me, one of the surprising things is, and I've forgotten, was the fact that Joel Schumacher directed St. Elmo's Fire.
I did too. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
And Richard Donner's wife is in there as well. I can't remember. You remember she's talking to Andrew McCarthy, and she had something. I think she was a producer. Was it Richard Donner's wife, or am I thinking somebody else?
Was she? They talked to. Let's see.
Anyway,
I can't remember.
She came up and gave him a hug, and she said she's so sorry they were going through all that, but that's not the way that Hollywood thought of them. It's kind of the way that America ended up thinking of them, and doing that. Andrew McCarthy's been in Mississippi recently.
Really?
Yeah. He's. I think he was either in Oxford or maybe over in the Delta somewhere.
Well, that sounds familiar, but I couldn't.
Yeah. And he really Tupelo. He was in Tupelo because he's a big Elvis fan. And,
That's right.
And he has been to Graceland, but wanted to go to the birthplace.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I've forgotten that. Yeah, he just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
so.
I think he may have been to Oxford at some point as well. But
I'm sure
I can't remember the.
Sure was.
dates.
Yeah.
So, to me, Brats was a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
Very nostalgic, kind of like what we talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, but I thought it was just a little long.
Little long, probably could have been edited, and a little bit of kind of like,
Edited more. It was edited. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say?
It could probably be edited. It's like it had been edited.
Had it. Yeah.
See, I don't know. I was fascinated by the whole thing. I would have loved. It would have been okay for it to be longer if he had got Molly Ringwald. If he had got
I
Judd
agree
Nelson,
with that.
if
I
he had
agree with
gotten
that.
More,
I agree with that.
You know, because you might disagree, but I loved that he brought. For whatever reason, I don't remember, but Malcolm Gladwell. I love Malcolm Gladwell. So when he comes in the picture,
He was
and
the
starts
tipping
talking
point
about it,
in the whole thing.
Yeah. Or
I don't
was he
remember
an
Malcolm
outlier?
Gladwell.
But he was a little outlier.
Malcolm Gladwell wrote The Tipping Point.
And Outliers.
The guy with the kind of a little afro.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I
does
completely forgot about that whole
revisionist
segment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was great.
He was great. You haven't read any of his books?
Oh.
You should.
Tipping Point's
That's your next
great.
book.
Yeah.
So you need to read his revisionist history, Jay. I mean, not read. Listen to his podcast, Revisionist History, about
some.
McDonald's French fries.
And I've
may
seen him
have.
on stuff. Like I said, I didn't remember his name, but yeah, that he was fascinating. And,
Oh, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
And it made me think that maybe this, and he may have done other things I'm not aware of, but this is probably Andrew McCarthy's, second act. This is what he needs to be doing, is this kind of stuff. And maybe not something
He's a
that's
little
as
goofy.
personal. Well, he is. And, at some point you kind of go, well, you're really whining a lot about something about, being pretty successful. So it's kind of like,
You
if
may-
he had done what Rob Lowe and Demi Moore had done, it's like, yeah, we've got it. We'll just embrace that and move on. But he let it, kind of shut him down.
Fester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Step
he's
back.
going to play Uncle Fester.
Wow. The second, third act.
Like Christopher Lloyd did. Didn't Christopher Lloyd play Uncle Fester?
Yeah, in the movie stuff.
Yeah. Stepping back and looking at it from a technical standpoint, I really like the way it was shot.
Yeah.
I was taken aback a little bit because they're showing everything behind the scenes. You're seeing cameras in and out of shots. You're seeing the whole scenario. You're seeing everything. It looked like it was shot with 3, sometimes 4 cameras.
And he had the iPhone camera.
Sometimes
that
with his
sit
phone.
this down here just to see what we get.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, like I said, from a production standpoint, it was fascinating as well. You didn't even have to care about anybody in it, but it was very
I
fascinating.
think they shot with Sony FS7s. I think it didn't look like Alexa to me, but anyway, easy rigs with the little wire
Hangover.
that comes down.
Yeah,
That supposedly transfers the weight to your hips.
Yeah.
Does this easy rig make my hips look big?
There was a. Go ahead.
No.
I said there's one of the interviews was a guy named Michael Oates Palmer, who actually I've met. He's a writer. He was a West Wing writer, by the way.
I'm looking at
when I
him
looked
right
him
now.
up. But he comes to the Southern Foodways Alliance meetings.
Wow.
And I don't know what his connection is exactly, because when I remember when I first saw him, I thought he was somebody else, and then I realized, okay, that's not the guy I thought it was. But I've met him. We're not.
He hasn't written much TV wise.
Well, I don't know all of his history, but I was like, wait, that's the guy from. I met this guy in Oxford. What's he doing on here?
So
I really don't know what the connection was that he had. I think he had written something that was related to Brats, but it wasn't like a book or anything. But it was kind of cool to see a familiar face there. Besides Allie.
Yeah.
Did you really? Did you really stalk her?
No, but
Faith Hill had already told her not to.
That Jay guy.
Jay guy.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
that Jay, no.
Yeah.
This kiss, this Jay.
That Jay. That.
no, but I wish
He's regrettable.
I wish I had auditioned though for like a extra.
Stalker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stalker. You ever roll for a stalker? No, and
I've got a white van you can borrow.
I was really crushed out on her, and so anytime they were filming and it was public to view, then I'd try to go and watch.
Yeah.
So.
What movie did she shoot?
Heart of Dixie.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
They took they took the words off the.
So were you in it? Were you actually an extra?
I was not
in it?
I know I had some friends who were.
I have a friend that was an extra in it.
Yeah,
as well.
but they took the name off the Lyceum and it says Randolph University. And so for weeks it said Randolph University on there while they were filming.
Now that they would have just done digitally.
Yeah. Right.
Back then it was analog. I'm looking it up. I'm not familiar with Heart of Dixie.
You probably wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And it's not on any streaming service, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think you have to buy the DVD at this point.
There's a lot of things that are not on streaming services.
I think I rented it on Netflix DVD at one point the last time I watched it.
She was in St. Elsewhere. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And
I
Hill
liked her
Street
in
Blues.
Psych. Did you see her in Psych? You remember her in Psych? She plays the crazy woman that's obsessed with Sean.
I do remember that.
Heart of Dixie, 89. I guess you were still at Ole Miss at 89.
Well, yes, I was.
I guess you were.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, I guess you were.
Yeah.
So
I was there longer than intended.
yeah, well, that's okay. We'll let that go. So, but Phoebe Case was in that in Heart of Dixie. Did you know?
Treat Williams, I think.
Yeah,
Williams? Yep.
Treat Williams. Wow. Kurtwood Smith was. He's the dad from that 70s show.
Shows, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the bad guy from the RoboCop.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Really bad guy from
Yeah.
RoboCop.
He's one of those actors that I'd never know his name.
Yeah,
But you know, he. You just recognize him at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But ultimately, great roll back in time, great nostalgia, reminiscing.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Well done.
And Hulu also has several of the Brat Pack movies, or they did at the time.
Oh yeah, you can.
You
that
can
was like
watch.
next to watch.
Yeah.
Melissa hadn't watched some. I'm going to have to get in with her and watch.
There were some I hadn't seen. There were some that that came a little bit later in the
same
cycle.
Well, and we'll wrap it up with this, but I thought it was kind of interesting that they talked about how prior to the Brat Pack and those John Hughes movies and those movies in the mid '80s, movies were not geared towards teens or 20-somethings. They were adult movies, quote
But see,
unquote.
I don't agree with that.
Do you not?
Because you had all these movies in the 50s that were very much geared towards teens. You had like the Blob, a horror movie that's drive-in stuff. You have Beach Blanket Bingo and all that kind of stuff that was geared towards teen audiences. All the Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon movies.
Well, so, I guess I'm thinking 70s, 60s, 70s, but primarily 70s.
Probably in the 70s especially, you did not have that because you had things like Jaws and Serpico and
MASH.
You had Star Wars, of course, but that was really, for younger kids and teens. I mean, it turned out being a big teen thing, but it was not a teen thing. But I do think the 50s and 60s certainly had, and even beyond that, you had, like 30s and 40s, you had Andy Hardy movies that were all based at, aimed at teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, in going back to MTV and Who Killed the Video Star, that was when the podcast, that was one of the premises that MTV was the first network for teens.
Yeah.
At that point. So, but anyway, well, we're no longer teens. We're out of time. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time around.